Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, Honorable Judges of this court present here today, Honorable Judges who are special invitees of ours today on the dais, Justice Sheel Nagu, Justice Shri Chandrasekhar, Justice Sanjeev Sachdeva, Justice Arun Palli, and Justice B. Mohana, former judges of this court, Justice Rajesh Bindal and Justice Pankaj Mittal present here today, members of the Executive Committee of SCBA, Devrat, President of SCORA, members of the Committee of SCORA, Learned Attorney General for India, Learned Solicitor General for India, members of the Bar. This function of felicitating the judges was started in my first tenure in 2017-18. Prior to that, we used to do a very small function in the lounge in the ground floor, which used to be just a little formality for 5-10 minutes. But I thought that every judge who comes to this court was part of a family of the High Court where he originally started work. Then he became a family of the court where he got elevated or went as a Chief Justice. And now, having been elevated to this court, he is very much a part of our family, and he will remain our family eternally, because there is no question of a Supreme Court judge going anywhere else. He will remain our family only. And that is why in one of my last farewell speeches, I had also said that every judge after retirement will automatically become an honorary member of the Supreme Court, so that we want every judge to be connected with the bar, connected with our affairs, and connected with every function that we do of the Supreme Court Bar Association. So this function is to basically welcome them as part of our family and to also tell them about us, because we are a very unique bar. Our bar association is very different from any other bar association of the country. Not only are we the leaders of the entire legal fraternity in the country today, being the Apex Bar Association, but we have certain very distinctive features which the judges who have come to this court should know. Firstly, we have never gone on strike, because we feel as Supreme Court Bar Association that if we have a demand, maybe a very just or a correct demand, but why should we make our clients suffer for our demand? So that's something which is completely not acceptable, and that is why we've never gone on strike. We have developed a system where we completely believe on the concept of mutual respect. We respect the honorable judges, and we also expect our judges to respect our members, so that that harmony between the bar and the bench is always maintained. We have also seen that there are some members of a bar, of course I can't name them, who can be said to be a little cantankerous, but by and large, you will find, sir, that our members of the bar, if they want to make a point, additional point, at the end of a hearing, invariably they'll have something to say. It will not be just for the sake of wanting to say something. So please give them that opportunity. We have had no sequencing in this court for 70 years since this Supreme Court functioned. That is from 1950 to really 2020. And the court functioned very well. Now that 5 of the honorable judges are joining this court now, we request at least the new judges that please, in your court, ensure that there is no sequencing. Our demand to the Honorable Chief Justice is already pending, and I'm sure Pragya also has made that demand today. And very soon the Chief Justices will also, because he has to convince the other judges, I believe he is also taken up in the full court. And very soon we'll have this decision as a full court. But at least the new judges, I can make this personal request that this is something which is expectation of the bar. And last but not least, in this court, when a matter is listed, a passover in a court, in this court, is a matter of right. If you feel that a lawyer is wanting to avoid the court simply by taking a passover, then give him a short passover, but don't refuse a passover. That is something which has always been our right here in this court. Now, as far as the honorable judges are concerned, Justice Sheel Nagu, he brings to this court privacy and human dignity over public clamor. The right of victim to remain anonymous cannot be allowed to be sacrificed at the altar of right to information. These are some of the landmark rulings of Justice Sheel Nagu I'll just like to mention. Even constitutional rights, even behind prison bars, are not in any manner diluted. The prisoners are human beings and their human rights are required to be safeguarded. Striking down executive arbitrariness, the Wednesbury rigor, by applying the Wednesbury principle, the apprehension that said the raid stems from political vendetta appears reasonably palpable. So it's view taken by Justice Nagu. Evidentiary integrity in high-stake criminal appeals. This is also a very well-known principle which he has always been following. What Justice Nagu brings to this court? A prodigious work ethic, having authored over 500 reported judgments across 12 years in Madhya Pradesh and Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana. Roots in trial and High Court bar. Enrolled in 87 in Jabalpur, his deep grounding in original and appellate practice ensures a practical bottom-up understanding of procedural realities. Unflinching evidentiary conscience. Institutional vigilance. What the bar expects from him in the Supreme Court? Sir, we expect speed without sacrifice. Bar acknowledges Justice Nagu's incredible speed in clearing backlogs. The docket of this court is not merely a queue for files, it is a queue of human lives. We look to Justice Nagu for swift disposal that never compromise on careful deliberation and evidentiary rigor. A shield against executive overreach, having consistently called out malified administrative action and procedural lapses in preventive detention, the bar expects Justice Nagu to remain an unyielding guardian of personal liberty against state excess. Internal vigilance, having sat in judgment upon institutions' own members in internal inquiries, we trust Justice Nagu will carry the same uncompromising vigilance into this court, holding the judiciary to the exact standards of integrity it demands from the nation. Justice Chandrashekhar, he is very much from our bar. He was with us when he even was elevated for the first time. Incidentally, he is from my state, although he is considered to be a Jharkhand judge. But I would like him to continue to be considered as a Jharkhand judge, because then we will get one more or two more judges from Bihar. But actually, he is from my state, and that is something which I am very proud about. His core judicial footprints are reigning in administrative overreach and statutory subversion, screening abuse of writ jurisdiction and demanding clean hands, unwavering statutory safeguards for juveniles, supervisory limit of writ courts and industrial peace. What Justice Chandrasekhar brings to this court, a real dual perspective of being spent 9 years at the bar arguing roughly 3,500 matters, including 140 reported Supreme Court decisions. Justice Chandrasekhar possesses the rare perspective of sitting on the Supreme Court bench after spending 2 decades as counsel here. Multi-jurisdictional breadth, have served in several high courts, 4 high courts. Dispassionate evidentiary independence, commitment to institutional purity. What the bar expects from Justice Chandrasekhar? A judge's mind with an advocate's heart. Having spent decades at the podium of this court, Justice Chandrasekhar knows firsthand the pressures, preparation and anxieties of arguing counsel. The bar expects Justice Chandrasekhar to maintain a courtroom atmosphere that honors robust oral advocacy while keeping procedure nimble. An unyielding standard of proof. Justice Chandrasekhar's record proves a willingness to uphold the presumption of innocence even in high scrutiny cases where public clamor runs high. We ask Justice Chandrasekhar to carry that same courage into this court, ensuring that the prosecution's burden of proof remains an insurmountable wall against speculative charges, guarding the court from disguised commercial war. As shown in Justice Chandrasekhar's Bombay ruling, the extraordinary writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court must not become an arena for corporate rivalry. The bar looks to Justice Chandrasekhar to ruthlessly weed out malified commercial interest-driven litigation so genuine public grievances get their day in court. Justice Sanjeev Sachdeva, I have very fond memories of working as lawyers in several matters before his elevation when he was practicing in the Delhi High Court. We have done some very important cases, one of them which I'd like to mention. So what he brings to this court, minimal judicial interference in international arbitration, freedom of expression versus film censorship, search for truth in criminal trials, that is the duty of the court, proportionality in administrative and regulatory action. There is a case which we did together, I just want to remember that, that was Rasik Chand Maniklal Dhariwal case, in which I think it's I've been saying this in several occasions, in several functions, in law colleges also. It's a case which highlights the importance of following the rigors of the CPC and how your substantive rights can be defeated by virtue of your not following the rigors of the CPC. And we succeeded in that matter by virtue of pointing out how the other side had completely failed to follow the CPC to prove its case. What Justice Sachdeva brings and what is our expectation? An unyielding benchmark for commercial certainty. The bar looks to Justice Sachdeva to bring that same exactness to commercial and arbitration docket of this court, where the difference between 2-week delay and a 2-year delay in enforcing a foreign award determines whether India is viewed globally as a reliable seat of arbitration. Justice Sachdeva's pro-arbitration jurisprudence will be vital. An active searcher of truth, not a passive umpire. Justice Sachdeva's decision under 311 reminds us that criminal trials are a search for truth, not a game of procedural traps. The bar expects Justice Sachdeva to keep courtrooms active, ensuring technicalities never eclipse substantive justice or the rights of the accused to bring material facts on record. A shield against executive over-proportionality. Having called out disproportionate regulatory actions such as shutting down whole hospitals for individual lapses or censoring creative art under the guise of public sentiment, we rely on Justice Sachdeva to hold state regulatory bodies strictly to the principles of proportionality and constitutional reasonableness. Justice Arun Palli, the core judicial footprints that he brings to this court is an unflinching protection of liberty under the PMLA. Once arrest itself is held to be illegal, all other subsequent action would be of no consequence, would have to fail. Preserving natural justice in departmental inquiries, purposive interpretation to protect social legislation. Clear line between reinstatement and re-employment. What the bar expects from Justice Palli, a champion for the unorganized and vulnerable workforce, with billions of daily wage contractual and informal workers facing prolonged legal uncertainty, the bar looks to Justice Palli to carry a steadfast defense of worker dignity to this court's constitutional docket, ensuring the state acts as a welfare employer rather than as a litigious opponent. Uncompromising vigilance on procedural safeguards. Justice Palli's decision in Roop Bansal and Ram Prakash established that procedural safeguards are not technical hindrances but the core of liberty and fairness. The bar expects Justice Palli to maintain that strict scrutiny against arbitrary arrest and biased departmental action. Building infrastructure for the litigant at the margins. Just as Justice Palli brought modern judicial facilities to remote regions like Kargil, we look to Justice Palli to help strengthen the institutional bridges that make the Supreme Court physically, financially, procedurally accessible to the last person in the queue. Justice Mohana from our court. I had the proud privilege of course, not that it mattered, but I had the proud privilege of requesting Justice Gawai as well as Justice Surkhan that if from the bar we have to elevate a lady, it should be Justice Mohana, and I'm so happy and glad that she's been elevated. Justice Mohana has been elevated after her senior, Justice Indu Malhotra. But the good part is that Justice Mohana has a fairly longer term than Justice Indu Malhotra. So I'm sure in this tenure, the longer tenure, she'll be able to do much more than what Justice Indu Malhotra could do. The other thing that I'm happy about is not that I mean anything less for the other judges, but incidentally, she has the longest tenure among the 5 judges that has been appointed, whom we are welcoming today. So we thank the Honorable Chief Justice of India for elevating a lady, and that too from our bar. And it is something, I'm sure it's just the start. I'm sure we'll have more lady members of our bar getting elevated to high courts as well as here. And I'm sure I'll be keeping on pressing the Honorable CJI even when I demit my office as the President of the SCBA and trying to persuade him. What is the core advocacy footprints of Justice Mohana? And these are all cases which I have seen her in action. Structural equality and enforcement in armed forces. She has done those cases with so much of passion, and I've seen her getting successful. Rights-based autonomy in disability law. Clean politics and voter transparency. Indivisibility of High Court bench. What Justice Mohana brings to this Honorable Court as a judge, a historic homegrown elevation as the only second woman after Justice Indu Malhotra and 11th advocate overall in the court's history to be elevated directly from the Supreme Court bar. Justice Mohana brings a rare, deeply rooted perspective from within this institution. Ground level wisdom for 30 years at the bar. First generation lawyer from Erode who graduated in India's first 5-year law. Her journey as an AOR and senior advocate means Justice Mohana possesses an intimate understanding of procedural mechanics, complete legal versatility, and its inspiring trailblazer. Bar expectation. First, Justice Mohana, you belong to this bar. You are very much part of us and you will remain part of us. You have earned every inch of this seat. Through 30 years of rigorous practice in the trenches of this court, the bar expects Justice Mohana to not hesitate to command the court with the authority that 3 decades of deep legal mastery gave her. Firmness and empathy and unwavering fairness. We do not ask for a soft court, we ask for complete judge. The bar looks to Justice Mohana to be strict at times humane, but always consistently fair and fearless. Having stood at the podium for 30 years, Justice Mohana knows when counsel needs a firm hand against dilatory tactics and when a struggling litigator needs a patient and compassionate ear. Enforcing judicial orders beyond the page, having spent years as senior member fighting to ensure landmark equality decisions were actually enforced on the ground rather than lost in administrative delay, we expect Justice Mohana to bring that same relentless insistence on tactical execution and compliance to a judgment from the bench. The litigant's reality in judicial determination, having waited in corridors, argued in crowded tribunals, and represented ordinary citizens, Justice Mohana carries the practitioner's memory. When technical abstractions threaten to obscure the human element, we count on Justice Mohana to remind the bench of what every delay, every adjournment, and every compliance hurdle actually cost the person standing at the end of the line. And last but not the least, I would like to also thank the Amity University and Delhi University, whose students have come here today because they also wanted to see the inspiring stories of the Honorable 5 judges who have been elevated to this court. And I'm sure by hearing to all of them and about their journeys, they will definitely get inspired to do well in this profession. Thank you.